And that would be the two of us live. Hello to you, Stephen, and hello to everybody who's in the chat.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
I need to do a quick transition. There we go. I had the camera stuck on the wrong monitor. That's my, that's as fancy as the special effects get on this stream.
There are other special effects, though.
Uh, are there? There's one where I accidentally mute myself and carry on talking.
There's the one where I can't type.
Oh yeah, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
I think
There's
I've,
also the special effect that people don't have to watch it on Twitch.
yeah, that is a good point and a nice segue. Thank you very much. Have you noticed how we only get spam from Twitch? We don't get spam from Mattermost or IRC.
It's interesting because I don't think IRC or Mattermost have like spam prevention, and this is one of the selling points that Slack and other similar services will give you in favor of their product instead of Mattermost or IRC.
Hmm.
But it's interesting that we don't get any spam from those things.
Yeah, in fairness, Mattermost is the instance I've got is set to signups required, but it's not set up to be exclusive. Like anyone can sign up. So a spammer is as capable of setting up an account there as they are on Twitch.
Yet the spammers have the freedom to use the software for any purpose as well.
That is true. Yeah. The zero freedom applies to people that we disagree with, and that's an important property. So,
Right.
what a reason is a good segue. All this discussion of the architecture is I've set up a new home for the replays. I'm about halfway through uploading all of the videos to it. So I've done 10 episodes. Today, this is episode 20 that we are filming now, recording now. And so I am exactly 50% of the way through getting all of our videos onto replay.objcretain.com, which we will have a look at here. And this is, as the title suggests, this is GNU Media Goblin. Here are all of the episodes. There's a feed if you want to subscribe, so people who don't get to watch live and still want to kind of keep up can subscribe to the feed and just watch. Get notifications of new episodes going up. This is of course an AGPL project, so you get access to the source code. And so this is almost the last piece of the puzzle. Now you can watch live on rtmp.objcretain.com, which is an AGPL3 HTTP live streaming player. You can watch replays on Media Goblin, which is AGPL3 media server. You can chat through Mattermost. I can't remember the license for Mattermost, but it may well be AGPL3 as well.
I think it is, but now I'm going to look it up.
I think it's one of those dual license things where it's AGPL3 unless you pay them money to do something else. And so the one thing you can't do from the free software land that you can do if you are following on Twitch. Actually, there are two things that you can't do in the free software land. One is like and subscribe, which you should do. So if you are watching through Twitch, please like and subscribe. Actually, I don't think you're allowed to subscribe on Twitch because we haven't made them enough money yet. And if you are watching anywhere, then please go to patreon.com/IamLeeG or patreon.com/SRBaker and contribute to the streaming fund. I think it now costs me about $50 a month to keep this stream going, through the like there's 3 vhosts that are running the 3 services, and the CPU use on Media Goblin and on Rtmp is it's obviously intermittent, but it does go high enough that they have to be dedicated. The other thing you can't do is you can't get a notification when we go live. But I've realised how to fix that, because Nginx has a plugin that lets you like run a JavaScript or a Lua script. There may be other options, but it lets you run a script when you at any point in your configuration file, and there's already a callback when OBS, which is also a free software project, connects to the Rtmp server running on Nginx. There's a callback which checks the stream key and basically authenticates that it is me doing the OBS. Now, in that callback, I can, after the authentication, run a JavaScript or whatever that will post to Mastodon that the stream has just gone live, and then the full thing will be available on a free software platform. And for this stream, I think that's particularly important because our goal, what we are talking about, is free software, and our goal is to kind of get people who are using, particularly Macs, obviously with GNU Step, aware of the alternatives that are available. And so having a thing that is like popularly available, where I don't have to be an RMS style digital hermit who eats their own toenails and doesn't tell you what they do for breakfast, and has a very strange lifestyle and only checks their emails once a day, but is genuinely sort of engaging with with streaming, with a modern piece of internet culture, and doing it from fully free software. I think that's an important statement to make.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think it also means that anyone who doesn't want to have a Twitch account, or people who don't want to interact with Twitch, are also able to watch the stream and not interact with. I don't know what the playing options are for the Rtmp stream, but I suspect, just because of my experience with VLC, that you could just point VLC at it and have something that consumes a lot less CPU power than a web browser running JavaScript stuff.
Actually, you'll get lower. So you can, in principle, do that. In practice, you can't, because I've blocked it. So you would need to know the stream key for reading the Rtmp stream, and then you could point VLC at it. The bandwidth requirements would be significantly higher than the HLS player. So Nginx is basically dumping out a playlist of 3-second fragments that are encoded to not to H.264, to
WebM or something.
Yeah, WebM.
Yeah.
And then the HLS player can connect to that and play that. So when I say HLS, it's not even JavaScript. There is a one-line script that says play this playlist in this
oh, okay. So it's like HTML5 video embed or something like that,
exactly,
rather than
exactly.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Anyways, so I did look up the Mattermost licensing, and I'm glad I did, because it is fucking weird.
Yep. I remember that.
So it's MIT licensed. The binary server compiled by Mattermost Inc. is MIT licensed.
Okay.
The source code, excuse me, the source code, or presumably if anybody other than Mattermost Inc. compiles it, is AGPL-v3.
Mm-hmm.
And the admin tools and configuration files are Apache 2, and Apache 2 for everything else.
Nice.
I assume the MIT license for Mattermost Team Edition binary server that they compile just is so that they can just provide a binary and not have to worry about dealing with complying with their own license, really.
Oh, they don't
I
have
would
to comply
assume.
with their own license anyway because they
Well,
are the
right,
copyright holders.
but right, exactly, and that's why it seems really weird.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like some programmer has thought really hard about this, and there wasn't a lawyer involved.
Right. Yeah. Which, as we've discussed before, is the problem with half of the problem with software licensing.
The other half being that lawyers have thought very hard about it and not talked to software people.
Yes. So yeah. So it's kind of weird. But that is. But yeah, it's. I think that when Slack started taking over the world, I was definitely for a little while one of those people who said, look, IRC is fine. And we can solve this problem, which I didn't think existed, with better clients. Because to me, Slack looks like nothing different than IRC, except it's got, it replaces your colon, rolling on the floor laughing colon with an emoji or whatever. And it embeds when you post a link to something, it embeds the thing. And to me, that could all be solved on the client side in IRC. But nobody was doing that. And running your own IRC server was a pain in the ass for people who didn't want to do that, and so on. And this seems to be something that has been common in this sort of space, is that running your own whatever is really difficult. So we're going to make this closed source thing, this proprietary thing, and make it free for many people and expensive for some people. And I mean, that's where GitHub comes in, right? I mean, GitHub doesn't really do anything differently or new than the things that existed before it.
Yeah, GitHub means you don't need to know someone's email address before you can send them a patch, but you already know their email address because it's in the commit message that you're basing your patch from.
Right, exactly. And so, but there seems to be this whole business model of we're going to take this thing that was, freedom respecting and open, and make it freedom disrespecting and closed. And so this is why I like the idea of something like Mattermost, because it looks. Somebody once said to me, I don't know why I would use Mattermost. It looks like a Slack clone that is just free software. And I said, well, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, but I mean, that is the problem, though. That isn't good enough for anybody, for many other people.
Yeah. This is another weird thing that something happened in the last decade where. And I noticed this because, in my consulting life, I see a lot of different organizations and stuff. Definitely 20 years ago and even 10 years ago, you would go into an organization and they would say, well, we don't want to put our code on GitHub because that means that some other company has access to our source code. And so we don't do that. But now when you go into any corporation that would not have even allowed one of those services to be used 10 years ago, and excuse me, now they have Slack, they have GitHub, they have Twitter or Yammer, they have just a whole list of these services that 10 years ago they wouldn't have ever trusted any of these companies with their data. And nothing has changed. Well, I mean, we have the GDPR in Europe, but nothing has changed in the US that makes that any less, that makes that any more safe than it used to be.
Oh,
it's changed? Just that.
What changed was what changed was the people, right? It was that, so these companies, and I worked over that 10-year period that you're describing. So I have been in these companies. I've even been that person at these companies who don't have a way to share files over the cloud, for example, but I still need to be able to share files with, with my colleagues, and I've got a Dropbox account, and they've got a Dropbox account, and so we share files over Dropbox. And now this stuff is going on not only outside the security stance of the organization and its IT department, but also outside their control and their knowledge. And so it became an adapt or die thing. They had to supply a either hosted or at least controlled and licensed version of live chat, project management, file sharing, because otherwise it would all happen over whatever shit that their users had that they had no opinion or control over.
Yeah. That's a good point. Another thing that is sort of been skewed is this idea that GitHub implies open source. I may have mentioned this on this stream before, actually, but I worked at a company in Malmo.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. Yeah.
No. This is a different situation.
Okay, right.
I worked at a company in Malmo that had closed source tools, and we needed to share them with a third-party vendor. And so somebody created a private GitHub organization and a private GitHub repository, and shared that source code using GitHub with a third party. And I raised at a meeting at one point, and I said, hey, I would like us to work on having more interaction with the open source community and opening more of our stuff. And the manager said, oh, well, these 5 things are already open source because they're on GitHub. But they were in a private organization on GitHub that only us and one other company had access to.
Yeah.
And so nothing about it was open source, and we were not allowed to share the code to any of that stuff except for with, that one vendor. But now we're sort of, the sort of goalposts are moving on, oh, well, if it's open source is good, if it's on GitHub, it's open source and that's good. Even though that doesn't necessarily mean that any of those things are true. And so, yeah, so I guess I could see the argument that, or sort of the explanation that these things are going to happen anyway. I know that I've worked at companies that had, or worked with companies that had sort of very stringent soft source control things, and people were pasting stuff into Pastebin and Gist and so on to share, to get help.
Yeah.
And so by putting it on GitHub in a private repository or whatever, you then limit that risk, I suppose. Another thing that I noticed, especially since moving here, is just how weird Americans and Canadians are about the ownership of the laptop, like the computer that you use, and we own everything that's created on that laptop. And so Americans are very careful to have 2 laptops.
Yeah.
Like, this is my employer laptop, this is my personal laptop. And that just seems like twice as many problems to me. I like to have one computer and just, sort of keep my shit separate, so I don't sign contracts that say we own everything you think.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, like the employer can have MDM on that laptop that they own or smartphone that they give to you, which means they can remote wipe it if they know that it went lost. Whereas if you have control over that, then again they can't do it. So that's I can see I can see why it's a frustration for you, but I can also see why like the risk thermostat of the organisation might push them towards that approach.
Yeah, and I've so far managed to escape being in any MDM encumbered situations, except for actually the company I was just talking about in Malmo that gave me a Windows laptop. But it was so slow and shitty, I never wanted to use it anyways. But I remember in 2 cases, I left jobs in Canada, and it seemed like the only thing they cared about was getting the laptop back from me. And these were not MDM encumbered. They just were There were laptops that I went to the store and bought myself and got reimbursed for. Actually, it wasn't even. And I remember in one case, I wasn't allowed to have. I had given notice, and I wasn't allowed to have an hour to remove my personal files from the laptop because they needed the laptop back immediately, and I couldn't understand why, and that was weird. And in another case, where it was the exact same thing. It seemed like all they cared about was getting the laptop back, and I thought, what are you planning on doing with this laptop that has an encrypted disk that you don't have the key for anyways? Like,
getting it out of your control is the answer. And it's an understandable but perhaps misguided idea.
Yes.
Once you are outside the company, you're then not an employee who's got this trove of documents and files and source code that shouldn't be allowed outside the company. And from that sort of rules lawyering perspective, you shouldn't have access to that computer from the moment that you are no longer employed by the company. But of course, in many cases, it's the insider threat that is more of a problem than the outsider threat. So that situation is only bad if they fired you without sort of telegraphing it to you. If you were a shitty employee who was going to leak all of the secrets to somebody else, you would have done it while you were working there. You wouldn't wait until the moment you leave the company. But again, there's an understandable reason behind it.
I think that it sort of comes from an understandable place, but it's probably lawyers misunderstanding how computers and internets work. But there's another weird one that I noticed by moving to Sweden. When somebody gives notice at a Swedish job, it's 1 to 3 months notice period. Very often it's 3 months notice period. And those people who have already given notice, they know what their last day and stuff is. They will come in on their last day, and you wouldn't know it was their last day. Like they go to meetings about tomorrow's meeting and stuff and it's the weirdest fucking thing to me. But in the US, I've known places where the company policy is when you give notice, they immediately escort you out of the building and give you your notice period paycheck.
Right.
As if the point at which you tell your boss you're quitting is the point you've decided to quit. Somebody who quits a job doesn't... I've done it a couple of times, but usually when somebody quits a job, they don't decide to quit a job and do it 30 seconds later before they were able to do any damage. Sure. They've been thinking about it for months. And so the point at which you give notice is just the point at which is actually the last step in the sequence of events that leads up to you leaving, not the first step. Yeah. But of course, from the employer's perspective, it is the first step because they had no idea.
Well, they had no idea if their managers are bad.
Well, there's that, but yeah. I had a job in Sweden when I worked at the bank in Sweden. I had 3 or 4 meetings with the department manager in a row over 3 or 4 meetings in the space of 1 week, where I said verbatim, this, and this need to happen or I'm going to quit. And she said, well, this can happen. These 2 things are going to take 6 months. And I said, okay, then I'm going to quit. And then 2 days later, when I gave her my notice, she said, oh, I was so surprised to get your email. I told you I was going to quit 2 days ago. This is just the paperwork. But you can't fix stupid.
So circling back around on chat, Rtmp, when we were talking about why the things like Slack replace things like IRC, says searching is the reason people use Slack, and I think that is that is correct, and it is something you can do within IRC. But the fact that you can't do it out of the box within IRC is a reason for Slack replaced Basecamp replaced HipChat might have been the thing that replaced IRC, or there might have been something before it. I don't know. But
yeah, there were a few other things, but also the the landscape of these kinds of tools is massive. WebEx has a thing that I didn't even know existed until a couple of months ago. WebEx, and there's Microsoft Teams, which I unfortunately inflict myself with. There's Slack. I mean, the landscape for this stuff is huge. But you're right. It it's sort of the latest in a long line of these things, and one replaced the one that came before it. But I think that somewhere along, like at some level, I wish people were more aware of the fact that when you pay for Slack for your team, you're paying someone probably, and as soon as your team gets to even not a very big size, you're actually paying more to Slack than you would pay for the salaries you need to run it to have it run for you internally. And this is the thing that I love seeing. I get this with when I was working at Neo4j, the AWS cloud bill was more than hiring a staff of 6 people and two rows of a data center. And it was a lot slower than that. And I thought that was just, and I've seen that many times over the last 10 years, where the AWS bill is more money than the staff and equipment.
It has to be. I mean, AWS are making a profit.
Well, right, and also it's not like a little bit more. It's like in this one particular case, you could hire 6 people to manage this and buy 400 servers, and still come in at half the cost. Like it's completely nuts.
Yeah, AWS is cheaper when, like, you're a marble that can slot down to the bottom of the big collection of cannonballs. But like when you're a cannonball, they have to dedicate cannonball amounts of space to you, and so you're going to pay cost plus on that with the marbles, because they slot into like spare bits of capacity. They can run that at a loss.
Right.
Yeah. The point that I was trying to make is that what these things, it doesn't matter that you can do searching on IRC. It doesn't matter. Like, I mean, another thing that is really easy on these tools that is incredibly helpful is being able to transfer files between people. And yes, you can do DCC on IRC, but it's horrific. Like, you both have to be online at the same time. There's no intermediate storage. It may be reliable now, but it certainly wasn't reliable back when these tools replaced IRC. Having a thing where you turn it on and file sharing works. And, by the way, turning it on is just filling in a form with your details. It's not like, go and read the manual for Unreal IRCD and then come back on episode 23 and we'll discuss it. There is literally no IRCD that I'm aware of where you pop it out of the box and run it. Someone's probably made a Docker or a Snap or something in the last 3 to 6 months to do it, but they certainly didn't do that 12 years ago. And and so these tools were easier to get started with, and for many an IT department, that is important. And for many
and also
doesn't have an IT department, that's even more important.
Right, and I think, and that was the point that I was going to make. I think that there is a lot of sort of the first hits free kind of thing on this, right? When your company is small and has no money, Slack is free, and you can sign up and be chatting in 5 minutes. Cost free, that is. And you can sign up and be chatting in 5 minutes, and then as your company grows to 100 people, your bill goes up slowly, and you don't, and then you have inertia, and you have a searchable history, and you now have investment in this platform, and so it doesn't make a lot of sense to switch off at that point. And I think if they, that's why it's free. That's why GitHub is free for individuals, because those individuals will hopefully like it and then convert their employers. And I think that there's. I'm not suggesting that companies should switch off of Slack and run their own IRC setup. Because that's ridiculous. Although I do know that the file sharing when both people are online and stuff like that, that is actually solved in the IRC spec, and all of the IRC daemons actually do support it. But we don't see that on things like Freenode and LiberaChat and those things because it's not really enabled, because those organizations don't really care about it. But I'm not suggesting that these companies should use IRC instead of Slack. But I do think they should use Mattermost instead of Slack. Especially if you can pay Mattermost and then migrate off of Mattermost to your own shit when that becomes, and hopefully take your data with you when that becomes something that you feel you need. And that's sort of the place that I would like to see the world go, is I think where the free options are just as accessible for starting up as the non-free options.
Yeah, so 2 points there. One is that is exactly the point I just made on my blog. I will load this up because I got the stream computer in front of me, so I get to do this. Here is my blog for those who aren't aware. Somewhere down here on the side. Oh, it's a long way down. That explains why nobody presses it. Oh no, it isn't there at all. I need to sort out my theme so that the Patreon link is on there as well. But this post, my proposal for scaling open source, don't. The point is you don't need to every company. Oh, that didn't copy. Let me do that again. You don't need every company and for everybody in the world to have Mattermost. You need for some company to have Mattermost, because then the people in their little network, or not even necessarily a company, it could be like a workers' cooperative, a trade union, some kind of network, they can then, those people will go, oh, there's this other thing and we're using it in this context, I'll use it for my canoeing club or for my sewing circle or for whatever else, and then that's how it can get out. And the comments I've had in response to that have all been so you're basically saying that we should give up and leave the entire fucking internet to the big business. Where's your where's your ambition? Why can't we do another Linux or another TCP/IP? And I'm like, well, TCP/IP was created for DARPA, which is tiny. It was connecting 4 computers across the.
And how do these people think that Linux grew?
And Linux was deliberately started as just a hobby, not big or professional like GNU. That was the phrase with which it was introduced. That was started as a small thing for a small collection of people that then grew and became a much bigger affair through through snowball effects, not through growth hacking.
Absolutely, that is how Linux became as big and important as it is now, is because one group didn't have the money to buy Sun servers, and so they got an old PC and they put Linux on it and said, hey, that worked. And one person from that group went to another group and said, hey, we could probably save some money by using this thing that I used with this other group. That's how Linux exploded.
Yeah.
And that is really important.
And also, I think it's sort of important to point out, this is the other bit of this argument I was going to make with respect to the stream, which I'll come on to by analogy. We are not using, we are using Linux. This stream computer is using Linux. But specifically, we're using Debian GNU /Linux. Might be GNU plus Linux by now. They might have decided.
Debian still calls it GNU /Linux.
That'll do. Whatever. I don't care. But we are using the thing that bundles this up and makes it easy to do what you're trying to do with the computer, and that happens to use Linux. So with the stream, I have gone out of my way. GNU minus herd is a better way of looking at it. Amiga Gamer I agree entirely. So with this stream setup, I have gone out of my way to ask, can I replicate all of the features on the popular proprietary streaming platform without, with like free software? And the answer is yes, if I'm willing to set up a bunch of different parts and do some legwork. So I have the Rtmp server and I have the HLS player, and they are running on the same box and they talk to each other. And that's where it ends, because I then have Mattermost, but I also have Matter CD so that we can use TalkSoup as the chat client, and I have Matter Bridge so that I can connect to the aforementioned streaming platform. And those are 3 different components that are all running on the same box. And then I have Media Goblin, but I have to take the videos out of OBS and SCP them to the Media Goblin box in order for that stuff to sort of all integrate. So there isn't a thing where I install a package and have live streaming, replay hosting, and chat with notifications, with the options for people to subscribe. That integrated thing is still the thing that Amazon are doing better.
Yeah, and Amiga Gamer 1200 makes a good point. There's a bigger problem in streaming and videos. It's not the software, it's the visibility and the marketing. Now, fortunately, we are active enough in both the Amiga community and the free software community that we can get our visibility and marketing off of Twitch.
But that's the only way you can do it, because Twitch don't solve that problem. If you are at the level of what's her name? Used to live in New York and moved away. Does retro gaming streams.
Oh, Ash Said Hi.
Ash Said Hi. Yeah. Once you're at that sort of Twitch partner level, then yes, they will do things like feature you on the home screen when you go live, or recommend you as content for other people. But even if you're at Amiga Bill level, where you've got thousands of people watch your stream and presumably hundreds or thousands of subscribers, Twitch aren't doing shit. Twitch aren't helping you out. They're making it easier for you to take the payments, in return for which they take 50% of the payments, and they give you this thing where there is familiarity. So it's a sort of network effect, but it's a network effect for the producers rather than for the consumers. Where I already watch Ash Said Hi on this platform, I can find Amiga Bill and watch him on this platform as well. They give you that, but they don't give you any of that visibility or that marketing until you are net profit, clear net profit for them, which is way up into the long tail of subscriber counts. Almost everybody else probably isn't even at the affiliate level. It probably doesn't even have the 50 followers.
Yeah, I would say that it's possible to find. It's possible. I found Amiga Bill. Well, Amiga Bill's not a good example because he's got lots of subscribers and followers and so on. But I found some more obscure stuff on Twitch by typing in the word Amiga. But then you have to scroll for days. What I got, most of the search results for that kind of stuff, is a very popular modern gamer tries out an Amiga once. That's, and I get that one video. It's the same thing on YouTube. When you search on YouTube for videos, you're not getting access to everyone who does things unless you search for super, super obscure shit. How many times do you search for something unless it's super, super obscure on YouTube and get a video that's posted by somebody who has 8 followers. Almost never. That doesn't mean there's not lots of great content on YouTube either, but the discoverability that they promise is not really there. Although, and you know, sort of marketing and network effects existed long before any of these major platforms. So I think that there are other ways to go about this. When I launch my my new video thing, I'm going to take videos of me fixing old tractors and doing farm related activities.
Oh, you've got to tell them about. Finish your sentence, then tell them about the theme music.
Yeah. So I'm going to start a video project where I post videos of me fixing my old tractors, and I'm going to do that. I don't think I'm going to put it on YouTube or any of the major platforms because I want to reach people who love old tractors and who understand Swedish, because I'm going to do it in Swedish for my own amusement and the amusement of people who actually speak Swedish very well. And so there are. I'm already involved in some groups and communities of people who like old tractors in Sweden. So I'm just going to post links to my videos there, and I don't think that I will find. I don't think I would find many more followers by posting on YouTube or similar, and maybe I would. That I suppose it's possible, but I also don't want to be in the situation where I wind up beholden to YouTube for I don't want to be in a situation where I suddenly rely on that income and it can be taken away at any time. So the person who drew the pixel art of Graham and I for the other stream, I also engaged his services to make pixel art of my tractors and me driving my tractors for this new video project. And then I started looking around for 8-bit country music. And so I'm currently waiting for an email back from the 8-bit universe to see if I can use, and obviously, pay them for their work and so on, to see if I can get permission to use their, I'm just going to find the video, their song, the John Denver song, Take Me Home Country Roads. I want to see if they'll let me use that as the theme song for my tractor channel. And what I found out was there are chiptunes of country music all over the place, and it's completely amazing. I love it. I'm just going to link to it in the chat. There we go. That's right, Amiga Gamer 1200. My DRM free tractors. Yet they existed long before DRM, and so what I'm hoping is, and I understand that there is visibility, some level of visibility on YouTube, but what I'm hoping is that because I'm going for a very, I'm hoping that I will get the first, 50 people that watch my videos. I'm hoping that they come from the communities that I'm already a member of, and they'll tell their friends. And I think that Amiga Bill became Amiga Bill because the Westchester Amiga user group people watched his videos and told their friends. And I think that can happen also off of YouTube. And so I want to see if I can do this. And maybe I only ever get 10 subscribers and I still like making videos of turning wrenches on old fucking tractors. That's also, fun. And the other part of the fun is that I intend to speak Swedish in these videos, and I am fucking terrible at Swedish. And I'm hoping that this will be good practice. So that's So I'm intending to do the exact same thing and avoid all of the major platforms. It's possible that I do this and also cross post to something like YouTube and see what the difference is. But I don't think I care to have a lot of those. Also, there are stupid things like I watched this YouTuber, The Crazy Framer. He builds houses by himself. He's a Canadian dude, and he likes to build houses without hiring outside help. And he's completely nuts, and he's completely awesome. And in almost every video, he says, "Oh, I hope the microphone isn't picking up this song that's on the radio right now, or I will get copyrighted." Because everybody on YouTube says the word copyright, but they think copyright means banned from YouTube. And I think radio playing some music in the background of a video, I'm pretty sure that falls under fair use anyhow, because it's like it's in the distance. So yeah. Anyways, it's I'm hoping there are better solutions to these things, and we're gonna find out.
Yeah, I mean, my point is that like there's an adequate solution, but it's certainly not turnkey. It's for professional software developers with an axe to grind, like you and I.
Yes.
We can get it to work after, where are we? Probably at least 6 months of setup, or at least like 3-4 months of setup.
Yeah, and also hopefully we can help other people do it in the future as well, and there will almost definitely be axe grinding on my tractor channel.
But you said like luckily we're in these communities, so don't have to rely on YouTube for marketing. No, like through judgment, we are in these communities. Like you don't.
Right.
If you try to like get rich by making Swedish tractor videos and sticking them on YouTube without telling anyone and hoping that the algorithm surfaces your Swedish tractor things, then you're not doing well. And you may have done well at the very beginning of YouTube when they would share literally anything that was on there to anyone who would watch, so that like people knew that it was a video site. But these days, like you said, if you search for something, you're going to find the massive channels. Like I watch a bunch of different video topics, like car driving skills, motorbike driving skills, retro computing, and I still get a load of like BBC comedy stuff, random railway stuff, because I apparently watched a railway video at some point in the past. Tom Scott, which things you may not know, and just like one of the creators in each of the other channels. So like Bernadette Banner for like vintage clothing, Ashley Neal for driving, Dan Fireman for motorbikes, Retro Man Cave or RMC Neil for retro computing. Even though I subscribe to a bunch of other channels, they still only ever show me the stuff that is the most popular stuff.
Yep, actually, I ran this thing. Okay, so I watch a lot of house building, homesteading, motorcycle videos as well, retro computing stuff, but homesteading and house building mostly, I think, on YouTube when I watch it. And I do not subscribe to a very popular YouTuber called Wrangler Star, and I fucking hate him. And I never want to see his dumb face on my YouTube, but I accidentally clicked a link that was unattributed that got me on one of his videos, and for the last week, the top left video on the YouTube homepage for me has been a Wrangler Star, a different Wrangler Star video with a clickbaity title and him saying some dumb shit that I disagree with, and I can't stand watching him. And it's that I'm on my front page of YouTube right now. It's 4 videos wide, 3 rows long, and so there are 12 videos on my screen. 4 of them are Wrangler Star. I never want to watch his stuff. And then I also get Scott Brown Carpentry, who I do watch and I enjoy. and Home Renovision DIY, who I sometimes watch and used to enjoy a lot more than I do now. These are like, but the algorithm is giving me the most popular person in the category that I've watched one video in. And I don't want to see any of that. I don't often want the most popular video. I want, when I look for a house building video, I want to see the guy who built his own house and just posted the videos online. Like, I don't want to see, I don't very often want to see the guy who gets paid to build houses showing you the houses that he got paid a lot of money to build for rich people. That's not what I want to see. But the algorithm gives me...
Everybody in the chat has their sort of coping strategies for this, like new type, like browser plugins, editing your watch history on YouTube. Like, that's all fine. It all works. But this is actually set up a search bot in IRC level of interaction, not the install, not the sign up for Slack level of interaction. That's sort of the point that I want to make, is that yes, you absolutely can do this stuff, but in the case of like doing it on a service like YouTube, you're fighting against the service provider, and and that it is hard, and you have to be committed to wanting to do that. For everybody else, it just points the other way.
So the way I used to consume YouTube, until other members of my family wanted YouTube Premium to get rid of the ads, the way I used to consume it was I would load YouTube in a private browsing window, find the channels I wanted to get, copy their URLs, and then I wrote a script to just pull all the videos with YouTube DL. And of course, I'm a nerd. I can do all this shit. But that doesn't help solve the problem. And so the problem I want to solve is I want to be able, even if my tractor videos are a flop, I still want to be able to tell people, look, you can also do this kind of thing, and I can help you with it. We've talked before about Rick Beato keeps getting demonetized because he is always well within fair use as far as I can tell, but the YouTube copyright bots don't give a shit about that. They don't give a shit about fair use, and Rick Beato has really, really great content. It would be nice if he looked around and said, hey, there are other ways that I can share my content. But not just Rick Beato, and we've talked about, don't target Rick Beato. We've talked about, target the person who wants to share their content, and they don't, they just want to share it, right? The point for me with my tractor videos will be to just share, have fun making tractor videos. It's a cool thing that I want to do. I don't think many people wrench on old tractors, and if I share that with the world, I think it's sort of better for everyone. I would like to see more people sharing what they're doing, but I want to see it done in a more disintermediated way.
Yeah, Amiga Gamer 1200 says a lot of creators are mirroring to library, and when I set up this stream, I always had the goal in mind that you would be able to watch it with fully free software, and so what we ended up doing was episode 1 was mirrored to YouTube and PeerTube, the replay. So you've always been able to watch on PeerTube, which is fully free software. I used somebody else's PeerTube instance because setting up PeerTube was really hard and I didn't want to do it, basically. And I've got a 20 gig quota on there, and I've used about 12, 13 already. So, there aren't many more episodes that will go up to that instance anyway. But I did look at library.tv, and what I didn't like about it was the fact that it's all based on this sort of cryptocurrency. So you have to put in a stake or do a bunch of watching other videos before you get enough credit to be able to upload your own video. But then when people watch your videos, you also get credit, and it all works in this sort of like in-game currency sort of thing. And that seems like a barrier to watching the videos that like a lot of people aren't going to be interested in engaging with. That's also why I'm still on Patreon and don't have a fully free patronage, like give me some money thing, because I'm not entirely sure what the options are other than GNU Tala, which is not easy to use. You have to set up a wallet. Now the wallet can be in your own currency, so you can have a US dollar wallet or a GB pound wallet or a Swedish euro. I suppose it's crown. Anyway, your native currency wallet, and then transfer from your wallet to my wallet. But like, it's not just I want to give this guy €5. I'm going to enter my credit card details. It's I want to give this guy €5. I'm going to enter my credit card details over here, set up this thing, be given this file called a private key that I have to know about, then work out how to give that €5 I've just added to me to him, and it's a bigger barrier.
Yeah, GNU Tala is a way for free software nerds to send money to each other. I signed up for Rtmp, I think it's called.
Okay.
Which is fully free software, Patreon alternative. I haven't looked into it in detail yet, and things like that. But the point for me is that even though library is it's an alternative, and I'm glad that free alternatives exist. What I actually care a lot less. Well, no, I care a lot about whether the platforms are free and so on. But let's to reuse the example from before. If Rick Beato launched his own website where I could pay him $10 a month and have access to all of his videos that weren't on and they weren't on YouTube, and I could just watch them through his website, I would do that. And I wouldn't send him an email and say, hey, did you know that you could be using free software? Because I don't give a shit if he is using free software to send me videos that I am watching with free software. Like that, I care very little about that. I would like for him to know about these things, and I would like for him to use OpenShot to edit his videos, and I would like for him to, to tell everyone about the cleansing powers of fully free software, and I really would prefer it if everyone did this. But what I want to see solved is when somebody has a thing that they created and they own and they want to share it, I want them to be owning it and sharing it and reaping all of the benefits of that. And I don't know what it costs. It costs me nothing to subscribe to Rick Beato's YouTube thing. And I don't know how much money he gets from it or whatever, and I don't care. But I would certainly pay money for the same content elsewhere. And because that it provides me entertainment. I care more that I get to use free software than that everybody in the world uses free software. And when I see a problem that I think free software can solve, then I can say, hey, did you know? Right? Back to your original point about, one person can tell another person. That's how Zoom exploded in popularity. Somebody was on a 10-person Zoom call, over the Rona. One person was on a Zoom call. They needed to have another call, and they said, oh, I think I've used this thing called Zoom before. I'm just going to go see if I can use that here. Sign up for an account. Now I have a Zoom call. That, to me, that's how that's sort of a natural thing. And if more people said, hey, I used this thing called Jitsi and it worked really well on this other thing that I did, I'm going to try using it for this thing. That's the exact same network effect but with increased freedom for everyone involved. And I think that's a bonus as well. So yeah.
So we are using Jitsi just to let that audience know and let that network effect carry on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, Gamer 1200 makes a good point. I don't actually think that Chinese hosted is any worse than American hosted from my perspective. I don't. I think American hosted is about as bad as it gets, actually, from my perspective. And Zoom is one of the exceptions to the rule if it's Chinese hosted. Most of the stuff is Amazon hosted. And I think that Amazon hosted is worse, I will say, than Chinese hosted. Because I think, and this is the opposite opinion that Americans seem to have, I think that private company surveillance is worse than government surveillance. And I realize that we have a few obvious large exceptions to this rule where governments did really bad things with surveillance, but we have many times more problems with private companies doing bad things with surveillance, but we don't have a way to protect ourselves from these private companies, from private monopolies, because they are everywhere. At least in theory, if I trust the Swedish government a lot more than I trust any random American company. And I realize that not everyone has that privilege to trust their government more than they trust a private company, but I think more people can trust a government, any government, more than any private company than they realize.
Should we write some code?
We should.
Nice. Let's write some code now. What we were doing, we have a plan file, so I can load the plan file, and then we will know what we were doing. It was something
I'm just
like.
Gonna open window, I can still hear you.
We were. Trying to work out how to get SimpleAgenda to automatically find your calendar from the well-known URI. And so what we did was first we realized that we had to follow a redirect, an HTTP redirect from the well-known URI to the actual index, and we did, and we found that SimpleAgenda already does that. So the next thing to do is to instead of trying to get the calendar from that location, get the user principal from that location, because then we can get the calendar home set, and then we can tell SimpleAgenda use this calendar, which we finally discovered.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to mute there.
I noticed that.
Sorry about that. I'm having some allergies. Okay, so the using the well-known URI is, I think my thinking on this is that using the well-known URI, once we do following redirects, which it does, and then getting the calendar home set from the current user principal, I'm pretty sure that once we do the third step here, get calendar home set from current user principal, I'm pretty sure that those two things just fall into place, and the second one is done for us, or with minimal work.
Well, I think that we did a bunch of work on this already, and so what we did was probably current user principal query.xml. So we did this query, and we got this response. And so somewhere in here there will be a calendar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bunch of calendars. And didn't we then have to use that URL to get the calendar set?
Yes.
So we then asked
calendar query. Right.
So that's not, I think, consistent with going straight from step 1 to step 3. Unless you think we can run this calendar home set query against the well-known URI and just get the calendar straight away.
I think we can, because calendar current user principal. I'm thinking back a couple of weeks. I'm pretty sure that the well-known URI gives you back current user principal. I could be wrong, though.
Okay, let's...
I don't have the well-known URI. I might have the well-known URI, actually. Yeah, the well-known URI should be set up on that server.
Yes, it is. We have already been through.
Right. Right, okay.
What was the URL?
Cloud.stephenrbaker.com.
/well-known/
I think it's calendars. Let me double check.
Actually, let me see whether we have all of this in the...
It's /caldav.
And then we will give it a path to that file that's up there. Be handy if I knew what that path was.
It is GNU steps x web dev, I think.
Thank you.
I think. I could be wrong.
No.
Nope. Oh, I was wrong.
Web tab.
Oh, web desktop.
Close. Okay, well,
and that's the redirect. So now if we run calendar home set on the redirected URL,
yeah. Okay, that's not.
Okay, nope. So you're right. We do have to get the.
Yeah, we're just getting a load of 404s. So.
Yep. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So we do need the current user principal first. Sorry about that. You were right. So we need to teach SimpleAgenda to get the current user principal and then the calendar set from that. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So did we want to create a new store type, or did we want to just change the existing caldav store to do all this?
I think we decided 2 or 3 weeks ago that the store types were actually well factored enough that it would be easier to just create a new store type.
Okay, cool. Let's do it that way. So I'm going to. So currently it's this group dav store.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's iCal store and local store and memory store.
I think a copy of group dav store, if we just copy group dav store and make our modifications there, or we do have source control, and this is all group dav stuff. So maybe just modifying it and then changing the names later if we decide that's the right thing to do. We do have source control.
Yep.
Yeah. I think this is also a basic feature of Group Dav Store where the current implementation expects you to give it the place where the calendars are. And I think the current user principal way of finding them is a pretty normal thing to do. So
this is currently doing this query.
Get last modified. That's an interesting query. I forgot why I kept the window closed. I'll be right back. So actually, I think get last modified is the wrong query to be running for the thing we want to solve.
Well, yes, we know, because of what we want to. We already know the two queries that we need to run.
Right, but I can't. What I mean is, I can't imagine get last modified to often be the thing we want. Or like too often. I can't imagine that it's often the thing anybody wants. So let's see here. So when we do the get last modified one,
Oh, we can run this. So, I mean, this is going to run it against the top level thing, which we know doesn't work.
Right.
Oh, okay. That. Because these are escaped.
Right. Yeah, syntax highlighting. Dad does as well.
I know, I'm trying to. Oh. Okay, so again, we get the the principal thing. So this is still only. Oh, and the system calendars. Okay, so we do actually get the calendars back. Well, I guess it's expecting to get a calendar, like an actual calendar, not the calendar store locations.
Right. So we get back response calendars collection. Right. Because the only property it's giving us back is get last modified. Let's go back to the code. And when it does get last modified, what is it looking at next? Because what we're noticing is it's giving back a whole bunch of shit. How is it deciding which one is?
So it's looking finds... for the event collection, or a to-do collection, or a calendar.
Right. Okay. So it's right. Okay.
And it's not getting those. It's getting collections of calendars back. It's looking for calendars.
Right. Okay. If calendar number of items. Right. Okay. So yeah, it's expecting one calendar back, and it's getting a collection of calendars. So I guess what we're doing is actually teaching it to deal with collections.
Well, actually, if you look, it is expecting to get a list of calendars back, but it is getting a list of collections of calendars because it will, for any, for all of the event collections and for all of the calendars that it receives, it will add them all.
Right.
To the store.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, so do you remember which... I can't remember if we did this part and it worked, where we gave it a URL. That was the calendar's principal URL. When we give it the calendar's principal URL, it gives us the list we can choose from, right?
We did all of the stuff that we're trying to code up now. We did manually, and we found out what the URL of the calendar is, and we put that into SimpleAgenda, and then we get the calendar in SimpleAgenda, and it worked. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So then here we do that bit that we described in the plan file, which is to get the current user principal, and then the calendar home set.
We do that. Okay. Well, actually, I don't know what that clear pop-up thing does, but we basically do that before this.
Right. Okay, then.
So here, URL is the thing. So then we want to do the get user principal or whatever it's called on that.
Mm-hmm.
That gives us the calendar collections. Then
I think it was calendar home set we want on the user principal. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do that. So the URL supplied is already instantiated as WebDAV resource.
No, it's URL.
No, it's URL. Right. Okay. So then we want. Let me see if I can type here. We want this line. If I can yank it. Yep. Okay. And then yank it here. So this is the user supplied URL, and we want to run the get user principal body equals. I can't type an @ sign. Do you want to put the body for the get user principal query in that string?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
For some reason I don't get key repeat at the moment.
Huh.
Oops. Yep.
Okay, so we want to do this next line, resource prop find with get user principal. So let's do, I can't type a square bracket.
I think.
Oh, wait a minute.
Okay, yeah. So something is something in like VNC or whatever has got control or option held down.
Oh, there we go. I got it. Okay. Resource prop find. Whoops. Oh, I just figured out how to do this. If I use my other option key, I get the right things. Okay. So we want get user principal body data using encoding NSUTF8 string encoding. Oh, I could just copy and paste this so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm missing a... So this does the prop find on the user principal body.
Yeah.
And then does the resource prop find set this thing data? Oh, resource data, that's what it is. Okay. So we do this.
Don't forget you. Oh, yeah.
And then we do and then we use resource data to get the data out and parse it.
Mm.
And this is where we're parsing parser equals GSXML parser. Right. Need another one. And then we want XPC evaluation. expression. Okay, we want these two things, but we want to change the thing we're looking for.
Yeah, but also you want the bit where you actually parse the document.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Right. So I want parse.
And there's a bunch of error checking you've missed out that we'll go back in and add afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, we know what we're dealing with in terms of data, so we can go back and fuck with that. I just would really like... Oh, look at that! I figured out how to get curly braces and everything on here.
Nice,
I just have to use the left side of my keyboard. All right. So now, if we look at the response we get from current user principal... If I go
a level up in web dev stuff.
Right. Web dev stuff. Current user principal response. And what we're looking for here is everything under... Oh, we're looking for...
calendar set.
Current calendar set?
Home calendar set.
Oh. Right. Oops. Home calendar.
Oh, okay.
No, hang on. I typed it wrong.
No, it's not there, though.
Oh, okay. It's not there.
Maybe it's... it's calendars. Previous one.
Right. How do we know that that's calendars? I mean, we can see it in the name, but will it always be in the name? Is the question that I have now. Is it in the opening tags? Does it say... Oh, no. The closing tags and the opening tags are the same fucking thing.
Okay, well, maybe what we're trying to do here is get the current user principal, right? So
right.
We've got, if we, each of these things has so there's a response,
right.
current user principal href, which gives us the user principal, and then we ask that what its home calendar set is. Let's test that hypothesis. So we've got a... Oh, for fuck's sake. So this tells us it's remote.php dav principles users GNU set / the query will be there. Why doesn't tab complete work there? Home calendar set query.xml. Oh, now if I can key repeat this not working.
Can you hit Control E to get to the end? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I have done. Oh. I got something wrong there.
Oh, the @ goes before the...
Calendar
I
home
think
set.
at.
No, I typed the name wrong.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
Okay, so now we have the calendar home set URL. And now we can give that.
Right.
So we had a step missing here. Right.
Okay. So here, the in the parser, we want to change the parse key to
To this
to current user principal href. Yep.
So this is response
prop
stat prop current user principal.
Yes. And then href text is the same. Okay. And we're assigning that to the variable set, so we probably want to call that user principal or something instead.
Well, it
instead of reusing
it is going to be a set of XPath nodes.
Because, right. Okay, that makes sense.
Because like anywhere that's got response, prop stat, prop current user principal href, this also has where are we here? Prop stat, prop current user principal href. So we're going to get a set of all of these things. Yeah, we're going to get this one and this one and this one and all of the ones in the document.
Right. Okay, right, but they're all the same. Yeah. It's saying these are all the things I know about, and the current user principal is, so we just need to take one of the things out of the set.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we might be able to just not do this as a, not look up a collection.
Uh-huh.
This should give us the first one.
You want to print it and return, or just print it?
Well, we know that everything else below is going to fail anyway, so.
Right.
Oh. Right.
Okay.
Let's give this a go.
Let's do it. Assuming my copy pasting and shitty typing. Oh, it compiled.
It's a low bar.
It is. I can't actually see the mouse cursor anymore.
Oh, right. Okay.
It.
Yeah, I'm just going to paste it. I'm just going to paste it.
Yeah, okay.
So the other thing to do is that we are currently going to need that bit typed in.
Yep.
Okay, so we did get 15 elements back.
Okay.
That probably just means that I didn't understand. Can we do response prop stat something like this?
That sounds familiar to me. Or looks familiar, I suppose.
I actually teach a course on XQuery, so I'm hoping that I'm not a complete tit when it comes to XQuery. I might be. Right, so I want this again, which has now disappeared. Well, no, oops. Caldav, engage. Oh, now we get 0, so I was wrong. Now I look like an idiot.
It might be on. It might be on which one we were counting.
Well, I mean, it was. I don't mean XQuery anyway. I mean XPath.
Ah.
Okay, right.
So we want it on the end of the whole thing.
So we want that. So this is this is a response prop stat. The 0th one of those, and then all that shit underneath it. Maybe.
All right.
This is where I wish we had like live source watching, like what you get in React.
Right.
No, I don't have that. Oh, bollocks. I'm going to type it in. That's easier, quicker now.
That's the name, not the URL.
Oh, yeah.
And it might still be in your paste buffer.
It isn't. I just tried pasting and it didn't work.
Oh.
Oh, actually, yeah. I tried middle button. So now I'm going to command. Nope. All right. All the dot and command C. Oh, command C cancels in that view.
Command C should never be overridden.
That looks right. Okay.
Yep.
Now I get 0 nodes. Okay, so it's still wrong.
So in that response, we get response.
Do we know that? What has happened there? Okay, never mind. Do we know whether XPath is 0 indexed or not?
I do not know that. But if you look at that example that you were looking at, it said whether you wanted the third one or not.
Yeah, but do you trust a programmer to mean third when they?
That's a fair point. There must be like a tool where we can paste the XML and test the XPath against it. I use those for regex all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. If it doesn't work this time, I will concede defeat and run a checker. Oh,
Wrong one.
Yep.
Right, and the reason I'm now remembering, the reason we want to replace group dev store with well-known store.
There we go. We get one node now. It is unindexed.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we have the current user principal.
So why do we want to replace this thing? Because do we want to stop editing this file now and start editing a copy?
Now we can always move it out of the way or whatever with source control. But I think what we decided was, or maybe moving it, maybe renaming it now is a good idea. But I remember because group dev store has different behavior than well-known store, because this process that we're going to is so that we can use well-known, and so maybe renaming it and carrying on from there is the right thing to do.
The idea is that at the end of this, you'll be able to just give the host name of your group dev server, and then we'll find the calendar. Is that not group dev?
Well, it is, except group dev expects you to give it the place where it can find the list of calendars. And we're going to give it a thing that you have to walk through to find the list of calendars. So we either have to give it a new implementation that does the walking the path to find the list of calendars, or we have to put in a whole bunch of conditionals in group dev store to say, did I get a list of calendars?
Yeah, but my point is, isn't the thing that we're doing making it easier to use the thing that's already there? We're not fundamentally doing something different. We're making it easier to use this thing.
Yeah, I hope so. That, but I'm not sure enough about that. But that's why I think we can just keep going down this road, and if we find out that it doesn't work on previous calendars, then we can.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. What I'm kind of thinking at this point is we make it work this way. So you just type cloud.stephenrbaker.com and it finds your calendar and shows it to you, and then that is the pull request. And if Philippe says, "Oh, can we have the old way as well?" then we worry about having the old way back.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep, that's fair. All right. So now we have the current user principal. We have to do another request against the current user principal to get the calendar home set.
Yeah. So the first we need to do is to work out from this what it does. Oh, okay. So set node at index. And this is zero based because it's and then content will give us the text. Okay, so this is a string. And now what I want to do is to log this.
Yeah. Was it? I thought you said it said content gives you the text.
I probably did, and then you're right.
It was a bit laggy, so I couldn't actually read it as you were going.
And my brain is a bit laggy, and so I didn't think of it as I was going. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Something has really fucked up these menu drawing. These don't normally all stack over each other.
Right.
I think there is some like known bug interaction between Window Maker and GNU Step, and I'm using the Debian packaged version of Window Maker, which isn't necessarily super up to date. See if anyone's trying to say anything. Nope. Did I rebuild that? Yeah. Nextcloud, boof. Okay, so we get the path here, which is what we want.
Yes.
Nice.
Perfect.
Right, which is part of our plan.
Beautiful. And now we do exactly the same thing over again to get the calendar home set.
Yeah. What we also do is here. Oh, actually, let's reword that. Create URI with path.
And you'll also have to enter your username password if that's needed. Actually, what we can do is make the request, and if it comes back forbidden, ask for a username and password alternatively.
Yeah.
Or something like that. That's something we can discuss later. Okay. We've got a few minutes. Do we want to do the same thing over again to get the calendar home set, or do we want to commit and call it?
Yeah, let's commit, because we're not going to get any further. We're not going to get sufficiently further tonight, I don't think.
Okay.
That's a good call.
All right. Are we on a branch?
That's a good question. No. Better. Okay.
Okay.
What do we want to... What is the commit message for this?
This is get the current user principal from the provided URL.
Okay, good. Well, it's been a couple of weeks since we actually made any forward progress because we spent all of last week talking about Copilot, but I'm pleased with that level of progress. Like, we've done a good step forwards towards our new feature.
Yeah. I think that we that first bit taught us, basically, taught us how to make the request and get what we needed of it. And so the next bit will go faster. And as soon as we get to the point where we have a URL that gives a list of calendars, we can let the rest of the code do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're doing is finding finding the information that the existing implementation needs. So at some point, we're going to go, okay, you take it on from here. One thing I'd like to do, but I think what I want to do is something that's similar to what we did on Dos Amigos. I'm allowed to say that because this isn't a Twitch stream. This is merely mirrored to Twitch. So the thing we do on Dos Amigos is we wrote the entire app, and then we went, okay, let's break out the clean up, make this more understandable. There is a thing here that goes from I want to make the following WebDAV request to I want to get the single content or the collection of content, at this XPath result, and we're going to have 3 or 4 like examples of that written out with all of the if the URL is valid, if the request gets created, if the response is valid, if we parse the XML document, if we get a response from the XPath, and which, by the way, is an error path which SimpleAgenda currently doesn't have, which is why it's only silently failing at this point. Like it ought to go. There isn't a v-event collection. There isn't a to-do collection. There isn't a calendar. This was wrong. Rather than just go, hey, there's no calendars to add here. But once we've added all that error correction, we're going to have a lot of XML typed directly into this Objective-C file, and a lot of the same Objective-C over and over again to process that XML, and we can pull out a collection of helpers to make that a bit more abstract and easy to understand.
Yeah, definitely. I like, especially as we're sort of doing exploratory stuff, and it works really well on the other stream as well, where get it right, make it work, make it right, make it fast.
Yeah.
And so we'll make it work, and then we can make it right by cleaning it up. And I think that's I really enjoy that activity, because also you get to, once it works, you get to use that enjoyment to then make it nice.
Yep.
And that I think is really valuable. Cool. All right.
Okay, everyone. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We will
thank you for joining us.
Some of you on Thursday. Please like and subscribe, or just give us money. Patreon.com/IamLeeG, Patreon.com/SRBaker. Money is worth almost as much as your approval.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Yep. Take care, everyone.